I've been sitting with this story all week. A fan of the show passes me a tweet that absolutely reframes my thinking.
What's the headline here? Stock market's rigged.
And I've been pulling on that thread ever since. Here's what happened. You sat down and someone handed you a game. You played, you lost. They sold you a better strategy. You lost again. They sold you a robot to play for you. The robot lost. The robot also quietly stole your wallet on the way out, quietly. And this is the part that really got me thinking about our current inflection point with Bitcoin and AI. Give me about 15 minutes. I want to show you the scam that's likely affecting you personally and the one thing that you can do about it. I'm Oceans, this is Beyond Bitcoin, let's go. So where are we at right now? We're at $68,413. Bitcoin is at the $70,000 range of this recording, down from its high, up from its low, right where it always is. Somewhere that makes exactly half the internet feel vindicated and the other half feel slightly ill. I want you to hold on to that number because we're probably going to come back to it, and I'm sure it'll still be there. But here's what I want to talk about today. While Bitcoin is doing whatever Bitcoin does, the stock market, you know, the one in your 401k, the one your financial advisor keeps pointing at like it's a source of truth, if you still have a financial advisor, that is, has had a very illuminating week. Today, we're going to talk about 3 topics with one idea. First, we're going to go back to 2014 with Michael Lewis, who's the author of the book Flash Boys, which is a book so well reported that the New York Attorney General preemptively opened an investigation before it even hit shelves. We're talking about the infrastructure rig, the millisecond theft, the one that set the template for everything else. Second, the 2026 upgrade. This isn't fiber optic cables anymore. This is Truth Social. On March 20th, the NASDAQ 100 did something that the Kobayashi letter caught in real time. And I want to walk you through the timestamps because the timestamps are actually the whole story. And third, the solution. So we've all been hearing about this thing called OpenClaw, the AI agent framework that hit 2 million users in 60 days and was going to democratize trading, level the playing field, and let retail finally compete with the big guys. You see where this is going, right? 3 versions of the same scam. So I want to take you back to 2014 with Michael Lewis, the same guy who wrote Moneyball, The Big Short, Liar's Poker, published a book called Flash Boys. And the thesis was, and I'm only paraphrasing slightly here, the American stock market is rigged. Not metaphorically rigged, not the house always wins rigged, mechanically, deliberately, and systematically rigged by the exchanges themselves, by the big Wall Street banks, and by a category of professionals most people have never heard of called high-frequency traders. Here's how it works. You submit a buy order through your brokerage. That order travels electronically to the exchange, which is simple. Except firms like Citadel Securities, Jane Street Capital, and Virtue Financial have spent, and we're talking billions of dollars here, building fiber optic cable infrastructure to physically locate their servers closer to the exchange. Not to analyze the market better, not to build better products, but to receive your order signal 50 microseconds earlier than the market does. So what happens in that 50 microseconds? Well, they buy the stock ahead of you and then they sell it back to you at a higher price. And they do this automatically every time at machine speed, 100 times faster than you can blink. That's like trading with someone who knows they have a defective product.
The stock market's rigged. The United States stock market, the most iconic market in global capitalism, is rigged.
By whom?
By a combination of the stock exchanges, the big Wall Street banks, and high-frequency traders.
Who are the victims?
Everybody who has an investment in the stock market.
Michael Lewis isn't talking about the stock market that you see on television every day. That ceased to be the center of U.S. financial activity years ago and exists today mostly as a photo op. This is the stock market that Lewis is talking about, the one where most of the trades take place now, inside hundreds of thousands of these black boxes located at more than 60 public and private exchanges, where billions of dollars in stock change hands every day with little or no public documentation. Trades are being made by thousands of robot computers programmed to buy and sell every stock on the market at speeds 100 times faster than you can blink an eye. A system so complex It's all but invisible.
If it wasn't complicated, it wouldn't be allowed to happen. The complexity disguises what is happening. If it's so complicated you can't understand it, then you can't question.
And this is all being done by computers.
All being done by computers. It's too fast to be done by humans. Humans have been completely removed from the marketplace.
The most iconic market in global capitalism is rigged. The victims? Everybody. But what about Robinhood? Robinhood's safe, right? They democratized investing, made it fun and easy to understand. No. Flash Boys came out in 2014. The response from Wall Street was denial, counter-narratives, and very expensive PR. The Attorney General opened an investigation, and then not much changed. Shocking. Citadel paid fines, Jane Street paid fines, Virtue paid fines. Nobody went to prison. The practice continues. The SEC has studied it with the enthusiasm of
Bueller.
Here's an amazing stat. Virtue Financial went public in 2015. In their IPO filing, they disclosed that over 5.5 years of trading, 1,237 trading days, they had exactly one losing day. One losing day in 5.5 years in a market where the average retail investor underperforms the index. Megatron must have had a bug that day. And no one really asked questions about it because it was legal, because the game was designed that way. But, and this is the key thing, in 2014, you could still say, okay, the infrastructure is tilted, but at least the information is fair. At least we are all getting the same news at the same time, right? You could have said that in 2014, but you obviously can't say that now with all our current algorithms feeding us constant information that, all of us are getting different information all the time. By the way, have you heard of Taco? Not like Taco Bell. Trump always chickens out. That is a trade, actually. That is an actual name of it that people are using. When the markets sell off because something Trump said, Iran tariffs, or whoever he's threatening this week, you end up buying. Because history shows he actually walks it back. Sometimes within hours, sometimes within 90 minutes. Hold that for a second, 90 minutes. March 20th of this year, the market has a rough day. Iran, Hormuz, everything that we've been discussing on this channel, oil at numbers nobody was prepared for. The S&P 500 hits a new 2026 low as Trump says, quoting directly, I don't want to do a ceasefire with Iran. My terrible Trump impersonation. At 3:40 p.m. Eastern Time, 3 minutes before that statement, the NASDAQ 100, the QQQ, starts moving upward. Options flows on long calls surge into the 4 p.m. market close. At 5:13 p.m. Eastern Time, 13 minutes after futures markets have already closed for the weekend, Trump posts on Truth Social that the U.S. is considering winding down military operations in Iran, of course. The Kobayashi letter documented this in real time. Quote, the NASDAQ 100 ETF, QQQ, surged 1.1% between 3:40 p.m. and 5 p.m. today without any major news. Options flows on the QQQ long calls were surging into the 4 p.m. close. At 5:13 p.m., President Trump said he was considering winding down the Iran war. The move happened before the news. Chat, is that illegal? I genuinely do not know. Of course. And that is somewhat precisely the point. Flash Boys was legal. This is question mark. The rules of this game are written by people who benefit from how the game is played. Do you write the rules of the game? You do? You mind throwing a rule in there for me? Arthur Hayes, who ran one of the largest crypto derivatives exchanges in the world, before the government had thoughts about that, wrote something a couple years ago that I keep coming back to about what the fiat system actually forces you to do.
There's all these things that the average person needs that the government can't print. And if they're just going to not allocate the losses for all this debt, which is essentially, debt is, I'm going to take the future and I'm going to spend it today, right? So we spent the future. There's no more future, right? We have to pay for it. And so if you have money inside of the system, you will pay for it. And it's an implicit tax on anyone who saves in things that don't go up as fast as the amount of money printed. And so that's the game. It creates a financial speculator out of everyone. Even if you don't think you're a speculator, you are a speculator.
You are a speculator, whether you want to be or not, whether you understand the game or not, whether you are even paying attention or not. That's the thing that nobody says to you when you open up your 401k. You're not saving, you're speculating in a market where the infrastructure isn't equal, where the information isn't equal, where the rules are written by the same people the rules are supposed to govern. Larry Lepard, fund manager and sound money advocate, said this plainly: "This market is uninvestable, long or short. The only winning move is to exit for the sound money of gold or Bitcoin. Uninvestable." This is a guy who manages money professionally, saying he can no longer run the play. And we haven't even gotten to the part where they sold you the solution. What's the solution? Not to disrupt your viewing experience, but real quick, this episode is brought to you by Mining Disrupt. We just spent 10 minutes talking about a rigged infrastructure, fiber optic cables, front running, millisecond theft, all of it legal, all of it ongoing. Now, you want to see the infrastructure that can't be rigged? It's Bitcoin mining and the people who build it. The operators, the energy companies, the hardware manufacturers, the data centers, they're all going to meet in one place this July at Mining Disrupt Miami, the 21st through the 23rd, the world's largest Bitcoin mining conference. It's 2 days of panels, keynotes, and the kinds of conversations that don't happen on Twitter. Tickets are limited. Genesis and minor tiers go first, so make sure you hop on that train. Use promo code SIMPLYBITCOIN for 20% off at miningdisrupt.com. That's miningdisrupt.com, promo code SIMPLYBITCOIN. Tell them Ocean sent you, but you don't really have to tell them Ocean sent you. Anyway, see you there. So the infrastructure is rigged. The information is rigged. But what if you could automate around it at a similar speed? What if you had a bot, not as fast as Citadel, nothing is as fast as Citadel, but faster than you, faster than a manual TA, faster than your emotional responses. So this is the pitch, and it has a name right now, and that name is OpenClaw. OpenClaw is an open source AI agent framework. You give it natural language commands, like buy Bitcoin whenever it drops below 80,000, or execute this option strategy when the VIX spikes above 30. And the framework runs it automatically through a marketplace of plugins. They call them skills. And this is the thing that got 250,000 GitHub stars in 60 days. 2 million users at peak. Over 300 finance and trading skills are available on that platform.
Every company in the world today needs to have an open claw strategy, an agentic system strategy. This is the new computer. Now, this is just the exciting part. This is enterprise IT before OpenClaw, and I mentioned earlier, the way enterprise IT works, and the reason why it's called data centers is because these large rooms, these large buildings held data, held the files of people, the structured data of business. It would pass through software that has tools and systems of records and all kinds of workflow that's codified into it, and that turns into tools that humans would use, digital workers would use. That is the old IT industry. Software companies creating tools, saving files, and of course, GSI's consultants that help companies figure out how to use these tools and integrate these tools. These tools are incredibly valuable for governance and security and privacy and compliance, and all of that continues to be true. It's just that post-OpenClaw, post-agentic, this is what it's going to look like. This is the extraordinary part. Every single IT company, every SaaS company will become a gas company.
The pitch was clean. Democratize trading. Let retail do what institutions do. Automate it. Execute at speeds closest to the big players. Level the playing field. But there's been a lot of chatter around the subject. Lots of OpenClaw made me $1,000 this week, or OpenClaw made me $400 million in 3 seconds, and I used this prompt. I went down that rabbit hole. In February 2026, last month, researchers discovered something they called Claw Havoc. A supply chain attack had injected 1,184 malicious skills into the OpenClaw marketplace. At its peak, approximately 20% of all downloadable skills were malware, targeting crypto wallet keys, browser credentials, SSH keys, API tokens. That was 1 in 5. If you downloaded a random finance skill in February, you had a 1 in 5 shot at also downloading something that would quietly drain everything attached to your device. Quietly. 9 CVEs, or Common Vulnerabilities and Exposures advisories from 2 governments, 135,000 exposed instances. And the most poetic detail, the attack used AI to generate convincing fake skills to blend in with the real ones. The solution to human market manipulation was a platform where AI was manipulating AI. Oh, by the way, and there's also an OpenClaw meme token. Of course there is. That's down 96.4% from its all-time high. That's not a shocker at all. As Alex Stanzik always says, don't shitcoin, it's bad for you. So it turns out you're not leaving the playing field. They just changed the court. Flashboys was the infrastructure rig. The taco trade is the information rig. OpenClaw, the solution, was the AI rig. 3 versions of the same thesis. Now we just spent the last 8 minutes talking about what happens when you trust an institution with your money. HFT firms front-running your trades, political insiders moving markets before the announcement, AI marketplaces where 1 in 5 plugins is malware. The BitcoinWay.com is about getting your Bitcoin off of all of that. Self-custody, your keys, your coins. Not your keys, not your coins is not just a bumper sticker. It's a description of what actually is happening to people out there. Now, if you go to thebitcoinway.com/beyondbitcoin, you can get a free 30-minute consultation and they'll walk you through self-custody step by step with no jargon, no judgment. That's thebitcoinway.com/beyondbitcoin. So here's the 3 acts. The infrastructure rig at 50 microseconds faster than anyone else, billions of fiber optic cable from Citadel, Jane Street, and Virtue is legal and is ongoing. The information rig, Truth Social. Futures close at 4 p.m. 13 minutes later, a tweet moves markets that are apparently already priced in for the right people. Also legal. Definitely happening. And the AI rig, the democratization of trading. 2 million users, 300 finance skills, but 20% of them are malware. 1 meme token down 94%. Dang, that sounds like a winner. 3 versions, 1 template. The game is rigged at the infrastructure level, at the information level, and now at the AI level. And every generation gets sold a new way to finally beat it.
Bitcoin? No, I would wait. I think that the longer that this conflict goes on, the higher the likelihood that the Fed has to print money to support the American war machine. And that's when I'm going to buy Bitcoin, when the central banks start printing money. I mean, we're starting to hear rhetoric that Trump says he might put boots on the ground. He's here for the long term, however long it takes, whatever that means. The longer this carries on, the Fed's going to have to print because that's what they do. They've done it for every other major Middle Eastern conflict, at least in my lifetime. And so I think if you're saying, okay, war is good for Bitcoin, I think what you're really saying is war means money printing is good for Bitcoin. And so wait for the money printing. Don't try to time it.
Hayes is not trading the taco. He's not running an OpenClaw. He's waiting for the moment the system breaks loudly enough to force the Fed's hand, and then he's in Bitcoin. Now I want to play one more clip. This one's from Andreas Antonopoulos from a few years back. He gave a talk about what he calls unstoppable code, specifically about the difference between a system that won't do something and a system that can't. Take a look.
What's the difference between can't and won't? 2 life sentences plus 40 years is the difference between can't and won't. When you say you want governance, beware what you ask for. Governance changes can't into won't. And the moment you go over that line, what started as an ability becomes a responsibility. And if you claim you don't have the ability anymore, that responsibility just became negligence, criminal negligence. Governance and unstoppable code are going to form this very, very fine line that we have to tread very carefully. Is your line the Silk Road? Probably not.
Can't, not won't. The HFT firms can't front-run Bitcoin. There is no order book to see before the market does. There's no fiber optic cable advantage. There's no exchange with a financial stake in your trade. The political insiders can't taco Bitcoin. There is no Truth Social feed that moves the Bitcoin market. Bitcoin trades 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. There is no futures close at 4 p.m. There is no after hours window. It's just open, constantly, for everyone. The malware developers can't compromise the Bitcoin protocol. You can compromise the marketplace of plugins. You can compromise an exchange. You can compromise a wallet app, and you should protect against that. But you cannot compromise the Bitcoin protocol itself. The rules are enforced by math, not an institution that can be pressured, bribed, or slow-walked by a regulator. This is not a knock on people that are still in the stock market. And it's not a knock on people who got excited about OpenClaw and bought a Minimac. It's a description of what Bitcoin is and what it is not. Bitcoin is the exit, not from risk, from this specific category of risk. The kind where the table is tilted before you sit down. The kind where the information isn't equal. The kind where the rules are written by the people who break them. Let me check the price really quick. Okay, we're still around $68,000. Shocker. Real quick before I sign off, I want to talk about ClubOrange, formerly known as the Orange Pill app. If you've been watching this show for a while, you know what I think about the solo orange pilling journey. It's a lonely road. But ClubOrange is how you find people who are already on that journey. Bitcoiners, builders, people who have done the reading and want to actually connect with you. Download the app today, and if you want to connect with me directly, I'm at Oshins, O-S-H-I-N-S. You can come say hi and tell me what you thought of the show, whatever you want to say. That's cluborange.org, formerly known as the Orange Pill app. See you there. Here's the thing that actually keeps me up at night, other than my very demanding 3-year-old. Flash Boys came out in 2014, and we all read it, we all nodded, and we said, yeah, the system is rigged. And then we went back to our 401ks. The taco trade has been documented in real time in public with timestamps on a free website by a newsletter anyone can read, and the people doing it are still doing it. OpenClaw got 2 million users in 60 days. A month after Claw Havoc, people are still downloading skills. The information is not the problem. The information is everywhere. Michael Lewis handed us the information back in 2014, and it's still a bestseller. The answer to all of this, you got to study some Bitcoin. The question is whether you move fast enough before the answer becomes obvious to everyone else. Thank you so much for watching this episode. If you like what you see and you want to see more, make sure you hit that like button below, or you can subscribe to the Simply Bitcoin channel for more content like this. We're coming out with it every single day of the week. Also, do not forget to hit that notification bell. Leave us a comment, whatever you want to do. If you want to reach out to me directly, I'm at RunDanceBitcoin on X. Other than that, I'm Oceans. This is Beyond Bitcoin. Until next time.